Hello YouTube, Byron at Splitting Slices. Welcome back to the Knife and EDC channel. Tonight, Saturday night, August 8th, I thought I'd go ahead and do a response to the open hashtag series called Why Knives, Why YouTube. And I thought the best way to do this was just to tell my story in brief and then show you basically 10 knives that I think kind of define my knife journey over these last 8 to 9 years. Now, it started way back when I was 8 years old. I got my first knife from my father, and that knife was the K-Bar 1232 Hunter. Now, it was a 4-inch Hunter blade. It had a leather covered handle, stacked leather. Actually, I think it actually had a leather lacing that went all the way around the handle, and then had epoxy that held it in place. They made a series of these knives for many years. This one in particular had been made when it was owned by Cole Industries in Cleveland, Ohio. Now, I had that knife for a long time, all through my teenage years until I think I was around 19 or 20. That knife was the knife that I learned how to cut with, learned how to use, because my father showed me how to cut, how to safely handle a knife, and I primarily used it as a fishing fillet knife. Now, it doesn't have the properties that a good fillet knife has, which is a little bit of flexibility, a very thin blade with a nice skinning and a very, very pointy tip for skinning and cutting along the bones, but he showed me how to use it, so I used it for that purpose, and it really resided in my tackle box for years. Unfortunately, that knife got destroyed when that tackle box actually got dumped in the lake when a boat turned over with a few friends and myself in it, and I forgot to take the knife out and properly maintain and clean it, and the handle basically rotted off the knife. Not a way to treat a knife. So unfortunately, I do not have my very first knife. Now, soon after, a couple years later, I got several pocket knives, and these were all the standard knives at the time that were licensed by the Cub Scouts, Webelos, and eventually the Boy Scouts. I had several of those knives during my course within those organizations. I basically got up to star on the progression within the Boy Scouts and then left the Boy Scouts. So that was all the further that I got, but I did have a good opportunity to take those pocket knives and learn how to use them to earn some merit badges for both skill awards and merit badges for Webelos and Boy Scouts, and I got to use them for a long time. Now, ever since high school, I basically carried a knife. Now, I wasn't supposed to carry a knife in high school, but I carried a little tiny pocket knife that had a couple pen blades and a pair of scissors. It was a knife that I got from my father, who gave to me after I tried to steal one out of his EDC pocket dump. It was a wood bowl that sat on his desk. I've shown that on the channel before, so go check it out. Anyway, I carried that all through high school, and I almost got kicked out of high school because of it. You see, I used it to pry open the locked classroom door so that I could go in the morning and study for quizzes and such before school, and my homeroom teacher never could figure out how I got in. Well, one day he came in early to see how I got in, and he saw me use the pocket knife. Almost got expelled. Got through that with the principal, with the dean of students, and all was well. But I have basically carried a knife throughout my entire engineering and project management and installation and commissioning career, installing various material handling systems in the industry. What I thought I'd do today is show you the 10 knives that probably best signify my knife journey over the last 8 to 10 years. Now, the first one is what I consider basically to be the all-time best heavy-duty work pocket knife there is, and that is the Cold Steel Recon 1. It has just been a fantastic blade, and this is really what started my modern knife journey back in 2017, 2018, that time frame. I was working with my son. At that point, I was a cabinet maker, making cabinets full-time for his company. He did restoration and rebuilds in the construction industry and was a self-employed contractor. He would basically build the houses and do the finished carpentry work. I made all of the cabinetry and, say, linen closets and vanities that would go into the bathrooms, along with special table and countertops. But I needed a really good work knife, and I wanted a modern locking folder that I felt could do the job. And so that's really where I got started using YouTube. I was looking and doing research on what is considered out there the best overall value for a work knife. And what I soon came to realize was this Cold Steel Recon 1 could possibly be it. So then what I did was I decided to go ahead and go to a few knife shops and knife stores and get a couple of these in hand and try them out. And that's still one of my biggest points to any new knife user or somebody that's entering the knife hobby or trying to find a knife. Don't be so quick to order online first. My recommendation is you go find a knife shop that sells knives where you can actually handle them and get them in hand. Anyway, that's what I did with the Recon 1, and I still think to this day, after 10 years of use, that it's the best work heavy-duty folder you can have. The great thing about this is it comes in 3 different blade configurations and is priced reasonably well for what you get at just a little over $100. So the Cold Steel Recon 1. Now, back in 2023, I had the opportunity to go to a knife store up in Ossian, Indiana. And there I was able to meet a few other knife channels, including J.O. Ventures Outdoors, that's John, and also Jerry with Big J's Knives. And the 3 of us met up at the hardware store. They were having a case tour event in 2023, and the 3 of us met up there and just had a really good time. Stayed for the 3 or 4 hours the event went on, and then we decided to get some pizza after lunch. Well, the 3 of us are sitting in the restaurant, and I'll shout out Ollie's Pizza in Fort Wayne, Indiana, where the show was. And we started talking about YouTube and how each of us started getting into pocket knives. And I said, you know, I've thought about starting a channel, but I don't know. I don't know if I have enough experience that people would find it interesting, but I think I might enjoy it. And I certainly enjoy coming to these shows. And yeah, we just need to figure out how we can get together to split some slices. And it stuck. That's all I needed. Splitting Slices. What a great name for a knife channel. And it opens it up to some other EDC items, and I could also talk about tomahawks, axes, mauls, what have you. Splitting Slices, what I decided on. So that became my logo and my sticker for the channel, which brings me to knife number 2, the Ontario Spax. Now, this is a tool that was developed by Ontario to basically help the military and first responders break into things, basically. The idea of this was a breaching tool. This was to be used to get into car doors, car windows, doors, buildings, what have you, but this is a breaching tool, and that's what it was designed for. And when I found this, I thought this was such a unique tool. And at that time too, there were rumors that Ontario Knife Company was going to be closing, which I thought was just a shame, since it at that time was one of the oldest operating U.S. companies. That I said, you know what, I'm going to pick this up and I'm going to use it for my logo on my channel. So it became the first sticker and my logo of my channel, and I'm glad I did. And it's an honor to have this and celebrate the history of the Ontario Knife Company, and more importantly, all the U.S. makers. So, the Ontario Spax. The third knife is really a combination. Oh, I thought I had it here, I guess not. All right, the third knife is a gift knife that I picked up in Europe for a gentleman that really kind of became not only one of my favorite knife channels, but also one of my biggest mentors and biggest supporters. I got the Swiss Army 2 while I was over on a vacation with my wife in Switzerland. We went to the Victorinox factory and I got to tour the store, and I went ahead and picked up the Swiss Army 2. Now, this is a two-bladed knife that I'm having trouble getting half hawk out. Come on, Byron. There we go. Sorry about that, folks. I got some thick, long nails and they're not fitting in that little nail neck. Alright, this is the Swiss Army 2. Now, this actually is my favorite summer carry because it's light. The A-LOX aluminum scales give excellent grip if your hands are sweaty. The only issue with this knife that I have is what you saw right there. That little half hawk doesn't have a big enough nail nick for me to get my big old nails in. But other than that, it's an exceptional knife. But I went ahead and picked up two of these, and I had the Knife Junkie put into the blade of the second knife, and I gave that to Bob DeMarco. So I want to shout out Bob on this channel because he definitely was an influence for me. Gave me a lot of information about knives in general, kind of helped me catch up on, you know, probably about 10 or 15 years being out of the hobby and away from knives on a day-to-day basis. And I just thought it was fitting to go ahead and get him this. This was one that he'd always wanted for the channel, and so we took care of that. So Bob, thank you for all the support over the years. I appreciate your friendship. Now, the next knife is the Off-Grid Knives Enforcer XL-RD, standing for Red Dawn. Now, I want to show you this knife because I think out of some of the knife companies that I discovered over the last 8 or 9 years, Cary or FSA's Off-Grid Knives is probably one of the best companies that I have found for both fulfilling orders and providing a heavy-duty work knife for not a whole lot of money. Now, he recently has come out over the last year and a half with a higher priced segment that he calls his Elite Knife series. Now, there you can get almost a knife up to $350. But the majority of his folders range anywhere from about $50 to $110. And he even has some heavy-duty fixed blade knives for that price. You get a heavy-duty work knife, a big blade, good sharpness, ground well, and just an excellent knife for the price and value. So Cary, I hope you continue Off-Grid Knives. I certainly look forward to seeing your new releases, and please keep it up. It's great to see a 1 or 2 man family operation, you know, be successful in the U.S. marketing knives. So Cary, thank you. Now, I also want to point out another company, a couple companies here, that are American companies, but they are having their products built overseas. I think in 2026, it's just expected that you're probably going to have to do that if you want to own or market knives. And it's simply because we've lost much of our U.S. manufacturing. Now, there are some companies, and I applaud them all for trying to make a go of it, and I hope they continue, like Tactile, TCAL, and a few others. But a lot of them have had to go overseas just to stay in business. I want to commend Finch Knives there in Kansas. Came out about 2 years ago with a new knife brand for the company, and this is the Sugar House Knife Syndicate. Great old, you know, 20s and 30s gangster type theme, but have put out some very nice lockbacks over the last couple years, and I hope they continue. This is the Jackrabbit. This was their first model of the modern lockbacks, and it's just been a fantastic knife. And it's got that stag handle, very thick scales, makes it, you know, full in the hand, a good grip on this blade, and just an overall nice homage to the old lockback style knives. It's good to see Finch producing things like this, and I hope you keep it up. Finch Knives, folks, try them out. Another company I've got to give out a huge shout out, and this is Austin and his staff over at Traditional Pocket Knives. This is the Lake Champlain Barlow. This was one of his first designs that he has produced overseas. I think QSP does a lot of his OEM work, but He is the one designing most of his branded knives, and this was no exception, and just a classic. Titanium construction, corncob jig titanium scales, and a beautiful M390 or S90 steel, which is on most of his blades. This has just been a fantastic slip joint knife, a modern slip joint, but a great one nonetheless. And I want to commend you, Austin, for running a first-class operation, and please continue to do so. Traditional pocket knives or C. Risner cutlery, go check them out. Another company I got to have a shout out to. It's been in business for a few years, but really has just come to their own here in the last 2 years. And that's showing one of their knives, a beautiful fixed blade knife, but this is Tim Kell, ex-Marine, and started T-Kell Knives. And this is just a fantastic little cutter here. He now has, I want to say, almost 24 models of fixed blades that range everywhere from this to the what used to be called the Sapper, and that's like about a 7-inch bladed knife. But just some fantastic blades, innovative in his handle configuration, in his handle textures and scales, and now even has aluminum scales that he's putting on some of his fixed blades. And I think he's got a second folder coming out very soon. So keep abreast of T-Kell Knives. They're doing great work there. And again, I want to commend a veteran who's trying to run an American business and, quite frankly, have his products made here in the States. We need more companies like him. So go support T-Kell Knives when you can. Now this knife here serves really two purposes. First of all, it shows off some of the beautiful work that can be done in the knife community. This leather sheath was designed and built by John over at J.O. Ventures Outdoors. And it's for this fixed blade knife that is from James Ingram, who is a master knife maker, lives, I believe, in New Mexico or Arizona, forgive me, but just made this beautiful Nessmuk. And this was a win for me. This was a Knife Rights fundraiser raffle win for one of the years that I donated to Knife Rights. And I wanted to talk about this organization on this video because for me, I have learned in business and in life, bottom line, you have to put out hard work. You have to have some good luck. Kudos to House-Made Grinders. I'm going to borrow and steal your logo for this episode. But more importantly, you got to put your money where your mouth is. And I want to support the knife industry here in the United States. And so I try to support Knife Rights whenever I can. It's an organization that's there to protect our Second Amendment rights to carry, own, and use pocket knives and fixed blade knives. But it's also protecting our Second Amendment rights. So Doug Ritter and staff, thank you for all the work you do at Knife Rights, and I appreciate these type of gifts and kind of raffle wins here. But the James Ingram Nessmuk knife, just a fantastic example of some of the prizes you can win if you're willing to support a group like Knife Rights. So Doug, thank you very much. And John, fantastic leather work. Please keep it up. We love your slips and sheaths, and you just do great work. All right, we've come to the final knife, and I guess I kind of have to maybe throw a shout out to a couple other knife channels that have become important to me. Nick Shabazz, you don't make so many knife videos anymore, but I enjoyed starting to watch your knife videos along with Metal Complex when I first got into this. I also watched a traditional knife channel that was called Knife Chats with Tobias. And Knife Chats with Tobias also has a character on there, used to on a regular basis, just about each and every Friday, and his name was Skip the Show. Now I got a chance to meet Skip along with some other friends there at the Volcano Club. It's in a top secret location, folks. I wish I could tell you where. But he used to do a segment on Fridays that was called Fun Knife Friday. And my final knife is going to be, folks, if you don't get a fun knife every once in a while, you're doing it wrong. That's what Skip says at the end of every Fun Knife Friday episode, and I can't agree with him more. This one just puts a smile on my face, and it's been a fun knife whenever I've used it. I usually get all kinds of gaudy-eyed, shock and awe looks when I pull this one out. This is the Cold Steel Mayhem. 6 inches of S35 VN steel. This was a limited serialized edition, and it is just an absolute fun knife. And that blade will come back, and you don't want to have your fingers in that path. And a good thing for the Atlas lock, you don't need to. So, folks, if you're enjoying the knife hobby and the knife industry, I think that's what it's about. Now, I also have a saying that I've been using a lot on knife streams when we talk about these type of topics, and it's basically this. As far as the knife community goes, I came for the knives, I stay for the people. I've met some fantastic friends over the years. I've had a chance to gift and be gifted. I've had a chance to give away and receive giveaways. And I've had a chance to meet quite a few different friends and like-minded individuals at some different knife swaps, knife meets, and I really appreciate it. So that does it for me. That's my knife's journey. I've started a YouTube channel because I enjoyed the camaraderie. You know, we don't have things anymore like the Eagles or some of the fraternities. They're just not that big or popular anymore. So hey, an old guy like me, I need some folks to hang out with and get outside the house once in a while, right? So you don't drive the missus nuts, or vice versa. And knives have done it for me. That's going to do it for me tonight. Byron at Splitting Slice is saying thanks for sticking with me on this knife journey. And why knives? Why YouTube? I've enjoyed them my entire life. In the last 10 years, it's even been better. That's going to do it for me. Until my next video, everybody, please stay safe, have fun, and split a slice with a friend soon. Thanks.